I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is public participation, and Gabe, would you like to talk to us?
Sure. Evening, everyone. Gabe Shepard. I'm just here this evening, concerned parent, my wife and I both, about some stuff that we've heard is going on in middle school. We've got grade school kids, so I realize it doesn't apply to them right now. So I guess I don't know. Like, if you guys can speak to me directly now, I don't know if we talk afterwards. I don't know if you will address this concern later. I don't think the issue with the bathrooms at the middle school reflects values of the school district as a whole. So I guess I just would like a little more information on it. Our family's not real interested in how this is going. And I'm just really kind of curious as to where the board stands on this. And what options are going forward.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else at this time that would like to have public comment? Okay, we'll move on down then to the consent agenda. Did everyone have the opportunity to look over the consent agenda? Are there any questions? If not, could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Bradford, to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote one.
Okay, we'll start with committee reports and the Board Finance Committee.
Sure. Last night, Mr. Lynn and Mr. Plotner and I had a chance to meet, and we were just discussing the levy and just some of the factors that are new to us this year, a very unique situation related to the tax levy and the TIF situation that is expiring with the village. So we discussed that. So I think at this time, if it's okay with Mr. Lynn, I just go ahead and give a presentation on that. Okay. So you have a document in front of you. Looks like this. It's identical to the one that you received in October. The one in October, I always do a preliminary. And then after the October one, we do another one, which is a tentative proposed in November. And that still gives you another month to make any adjustments that may come up. What I'd like to point out is that from the October one to the November one, there are some adjustments. Okay. And the situation that we're working through right now that is very, very unique to our school district, as you've heard me talking about the last 12 months, has been the TIF. And I gave you a lot of information about the TIF situation last month and everything, so I won't go all into that. But just some new information is that there are situations where school districts, in our situation, there are some cases, and one is very close by, near the Champaign area, where when the money that has been not going to the school district has been going to the TIF, okay, that now is expiring and is moving back to the school district, that affects your levy and your EAV. Meaning this, when your EAV increases, that allows your tax rate to decrease, okay, on your property taxes, because you don't need as much money to make your budgets. When the EAV goes in the other direction, that forces communities to have to raise tax rates. Well, we're in a situation right now where there's a little bit of discrepancy and unsureness about when this money would actually come to the school district, whether it be this coming year or the following year. And I've been reaching out to the county clerk's office, getting information from them. I've been working with the Illinois State Board of Education as well, and double checking our numbers and figures. And the case nearby is a situation where a school district was informed by the county clerk's office that they would not be receiving that money in that given year, and it was going to be a year later. The problem is that that information turned out to be wrong. So that school district then went back to the county clerk's office, said, hey, we did what you said to not levy for this, not ask for this. And as that money was transitioning, they said, well, too bad, you should know better. So then it got into a finger pointing situation, and you can read about it. It's public information. But I guess all that to say is that we're in a situation where when that EAV possibility is there, when you levy or you ask for something, you basically raise your hand and say, hey, listen, if there's more EAV, if there's more money coming from our TIF towards the school district, we would like to have access to that. If you don't levy for it and raise your hand and ask for it, and it's available, you don't get it. So by levying for it, there's no harm, no foul, because you will only receive the amount of money that is allowable to you anyway. So if it turns out that the Vermilion County Clerk's Office is correct, and I'm going to assume that they are, there's still no harm, no foul, because it wouldn't be available to you anyway. So it's a unique situation here right now. I wouldn't want to be in a situation where we basically lose $175,000 to $300,000 for our school district, depending on the estimated numbers, because we didn't raise our hand and say, if it's available, we would like to have that. And you have to do that through your levy, okay? And you have to do that through asking for more than may be available, and then you will only get the amount that is allowable to you. One of the things to point out is that the tax rates are set. Those are statutory tax rates that are set, except for 3 different categories: your IMRF, your FICA and Social Security, and your tort immunity. Those are funds that you can basically tax rate. Now, you can't go too far on it, but you basically are just going to ask for the amount of money that you need to meet your budgets, and that's what we always do. So the misconception that we're able to adjust tax rates and things like that to any rate possible is not true. The state sets that statutorily, okay? And what you have there are the statutory rates, okay? The difference in the levy from this month, from last month, is that just looking more closely through the annual financial report, is that it looks like that we were able to lessen the amount that we're asking for initially in those 3 funds, the tort, or actually the IMRF and the FICA Social Security. You know, for example, we thought we might need $208,000 in IMRF, and it looks like we're only going to need $172,000. So that's a nice reduction there. And then also with the FICA Social Security, we thought we might need $250,000 to meet the needs for our employees, and it looks like that $207,000 will take care of that and still keep us in a healthy fund balance, okay? As far as tort immunity, we were looking at $510,000 last month. That is our budget. I mean, that's basically what we need to take care of tort immunity for liability purposes for our school district. So all that to be said, I'm just going to kind of walk through this sheet here a little bit, and I'll probably pull one up here if I can. So this is just kind of a preview of what we're looking at here, but you'll see up on the board there, and the same thing in the sheet in front of you, of how this kind of works as far as the tax year, which was last year, when we levy for it, and when it's collected for the school district. So it's a budget levy cycle. You have to make sure that whatever you're asking for is going to meet the needs for your budget. We've not been in a situation where we've been a nickel or more here at the district since I think 2015. This is a situation now that's unique, that doesn't come along in school district very often because of the EAV increase, meaning this. When you look at the number, the top right-hand corner up here, I'm going to go ahead and move up here if that's okay. There's a difference here between the EAV with the TIF and if the TIF doesn't come through, anywhere from $4.5 to $10 million. We don't know what that estimate is on EAV. So that's why this really impacts not only your budget, but it impacts your people in a positive way, okay? So if we don't levy for this extra amount of money, it doesn't come this direction, okay? So we have to plan for the EAV. So that's why we've done this. And because of that potential increase, and if we're wrong, it's not going to affect us in a negative way. There's no harm, there's no foul. We asked for it, it wasn't ready yet, then we do the same thing next year. And that way we capture it. Because here's a situation to a similar district, just not too far from here. They lost a lot of that money. And when I talked to the financial consultant from the State Board of Ed, he said he sees it all the time when there are mistakes made and it hurts the school district. So I just want to put a shield of protection around us as a school district and say that we just want to be able to collect whatever is allowable to us through that. Nothing more, nothing less, just whatever is allowable. And that's the unique situation we're in right now with our TIP. So you can see here, I'll scroll here in a minute, but there's the tax rates. Those are set by the state. These are the different funds. This is kind of what the levy was. And this was the amount of the money that was actually given to us last year. So you ask for a certain amount to meet your budget, and then the Dominion County Clerk's Office basically extends a certain amount to you. And you don't usually get what you ask for. But you don't want to be in a situation where you under ask and money was allowable and then you didn't have it for your district. So this is the difference. Normally the EAV with property level is going to be somewhere around 4%. That's normally where we're at. We've got to factor in the EAV value that could be different this year. If not, then it would be the following year. So those were the things that we talked about last night as a finance committee about protecting the school district right now and making sure that we put that shield of protection around us so that we protect against a situation that's happened to a few other school districts that we would not really want to experience. So I just wanted to share that with you. And so that's why this particular recommendation, like I said, myself and the finance committee from last night, just kind of discussing this and seeing how this would turn out. We would need to do a truth in taxation, okay, so we're transparent with our taxpayers. And I think the thing to keep in mind here is that the numbers that you see, like I've got in green are the 13.17%. That's not a tax increase, okay? That's not what that is. What that is the asking amount in case the levy jumps drastically, 4.5 to 10 million based on the EAV from the TIF that is expiring. Okay. So again, I just can't say enough how the importance of no harm, no foul, just by asking and not getting it from the county based on the EAV, and then we would be prepared for next year. And if it's this year, then we're good to go. And we protected ourselves as a district. I also like to put down here at the bottom. I know it's kind of hard to see up here. I apologize for that. On your sheets, you'll notice I like to do a historical tax rate trend just to kind of see where things have been over the years. And you can see that Oakwood's been very consistent, even in some difficult years. And you can see how things are moving down and going lower. And the reason that tax rate is happening that way is because the EAV continues to rise, and we continue to stay within our means with budgetary planning. So, and I like to take a look at the historical EAV to see how this has changed over the years, and take a look at historical changes. So I think one of the nice things about it is that if when we're right, whether it's this year or next year, when we hit this right, that's actually going to help the tax rates for our property owners. So that is basically it in a nutshell as far as some history, some trends, and a unique situation that Oakwood's in right now that doesn't happen too many times in a lifetime. So I wanted to share that. Mr. Lynn, was there anything that I missed on that we had discussed last night?
No.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? All right. All right. The other thing that I wanted to let you know that I did, kind of in line with that, is that the state has offered the opportunity to fill out an application, a grant for a property tax relief grant. You've probably heard me talk about that, probably prior superintendents. I did fill out that grant for our school district. We've not been successful in attaining that, nor has anyone else in the area recently. But it's still a good idea to fill it out because you just never know what could happen. And that would bring even more of a benefit to our property owners if we were to attain that. So I did fill out and submit that. So I wanted you to know since that was something that just happened recently. Other than that, with the Finance Committee, the Strategic Planning Committee, our next meeting is December 1st at 5:30. And I believe that's all the committees that met this past month.
Okay.
So
Okay, you want to go on to the superintendent's report?
I would be glad to. Thank you. As far as the superintendent's report goes, I just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, to our veterans, I always like to recognize Veterans Day. It's an important day for all of us, and it touches us in many different ways. And I just want to say thank you again to our men and women who have served our country, and want to recognize the importance of last week. I also wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, so I don't forget to do that. That's coming up here as well. And I wish you all wonderful times with your family and your friends. As far as annual financial report, we've got those documents. You have a booklet in front of you. We've got Mr. Russ Lee, who is our auditor. So Russ, if you want to take the stage here and talk us through.
You're going to get all kinds of financial information.
Hopefully it's consistent with the auditor, right?
Flooded with information tonight, whether you want it or not. Yeah, you should have a bound copy on front of you. Start off with the first couple pages of the opinion pages, unqualified opinions, meaning you're in compliance with the school code, in compliance with the state statutes, no issues from a compliance standpoint. That's what we sent into the State Board of Education. That's what they look for, to make sure you're in compliance with everything, and you are. Had very, very few issues. Actually, the books were probably about as good a shape as they've been in a few years, and had very few issues with getting the numbers together this year. So that's positive. So overall, pretty clean audit and no real major issues. So that's what you look for. That's why you have the audit, and that's what the purpose of it is. So that's good. So I'm going to just kind of look. Larry's kind of stole some of the thunder already here, but it'll be perfect here. We can kind of talk about some of the exact same things he just brought up, actually. Page 3, I'm going to start you off there just to look at it, and you'll see your numbers look really good this year. You've increased your fund balances, the numbers look good. But I bring you to this page. This is the statement of assets and liabilities, balance sheet, whatever term you want to use. And I show you this page because right there in the first column, there's something new there. It's the student activity fund cash and investments of $223,000. In the past, we had student activity funds on their own, off the books, basically. Now the state is having us including it in the education fund. So we now bring that cash and balance in there, and on the revenue side, we put the revenue and expense from the activity funds in the revenue and expense. And it's because a lot of school districts have a lot of money off books, so to speak, that we're flowing through activity funds, whether it's sports or various activities that they got. And because those are off the books and a lot of stuff was flowing through them, the state has now been making a big deal over the last 2 or 3 years to bring those back onto the books. And now they're having us put as part of the education fund, adding that to your balance, adding the revenue and expense. And the only reason I can see that they're doing it is it may impact your EBF somewhere along the line. Might take you from one tier to the next or something. That as they add that in, you guys got about $200,000 worth of revenue flowing through your activity funds. Some districts have as much as $500,000. So if you add that revenue in there and that impacts your EBF, it might have an impact on the tier 1 or tier 2 or something like that for various districts. I don't know that it would affect yours. It's probably not high enough to affect yours, but I think that's why they're doing it. They're looking for ways to knock down EBF, the evidence-based funding, somehow. And I think if they include all that in there, I think they figure that they can maybe bring down your amount maybe a little bit if they include all those activity fund money. So they've been making a big deal out of that for the last few years about trying to get control of those and watch over those, and that's kind of what's happened. So again, I bring that up, but again, just the next page on page 4, just to look at the balances you got. And I'm probably the only guy that's going to say this. The only time you're ever going to hear this over the next year. Actually, COVID is probably a good thing for school districts from a financial standpoint. Nobody wants to hear that, but it has actually affected the bottom lines of school districts positively based on what's happened. I think most school districts have seen, they incurred a lot of extra expense, but the revenue that they're kicking in has seemed to have been positive, and it's actually added to the bottom lines of a lot of school districts. And we're going to kind of look at that in a little bit. But if you look at page 4, that's the revenue. Education fund had $8,677,776 in revenue. That was up almost $1 million from last year, basically, from the fiscal year. Expenses were $7,326,000. So you have an excess of revenue of $1,350,000, basically, added to your fund balance. So your fund balance goes from $1,750,000 to $3,328,000. So a huge jump in your education fund, obviously, and your overall fund balance. That's important. I like to see that fund balance. That fund balance, the state wants you to be about a 6-month cash on hand. You're not quite there, but pretty close. In all honesty, that really jumped you. And you'll see that that's pretty significant. There in the middle of the page, I just skip over that revenue for on behalf payments of $3,353,000, and you'll see an expense for the same thing. That's what the state of Illinois puts in for Oakwood School District for TRS. That's their contribution. We'll talk a little bit about that. They're short. They haven't got it all funded, obviously. They're short on everybody, but that's it. So again, I think that's important, and Larry kind of alluded to it with the property tax discussion. I think that's one of the things that we'll talk a little bit about, how it's important to get those fund balances up and the tax rates up, because a couple of the big hot points, or I think they're talking about, is property tax freezes at the state level and bringing that pension back. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I think that's going to be important when you look at those fund balances. Operations and maintenance, next column's got 576 revenue, 716 in expense. You're in a little bit of a deficit there. That fund's down to 71,000 in its fund balance. That's a little low. You actually finished with a recognition list from the state of Illinois, whatever that means. When the state of Illinois tells you you did a good job financially, I don't know if that means anything.
That's to me.
You'll get a nice little certificate. But the reason you didn't get up to the 4.0 score is because of the operations funds is too low. It doesn't have enough in it. So that's what caused it kind of to kick you from a 4.0 to a 3.8. But anyway, like I said, not that that means much when your state of Illinois is telling you that. And the other key operating fund is transportation, 628 in revenue, 491 in expense. It ran an excess there of 136,000. That fund's in really good shape. Probably if something happens down the road with funding from the state, I would tell you that's probably the first thing that's going to go away is your transportation reimbursement from all indications. I mean, they've always been a couple of payments behind, or at least one. So it indicates to me that that's probably the area that they would try to cut you out on. But again, your fund balances are good. You look really much better than you have. You're growing your fund balances, and that's good. So that's a key, and we'll kind of talk about why that is. But again, incurred a lot. Last year was obviously a weird year. Incurring extra expenses because of COVID, so your expenses went up. But again, nothing out of the ordinary. And if you jump to page 9, I'm looking at 21 and 20 columns. If you look between the two of them, you won't see any big jumps anywhere. Basically, they're all in line with where they ought to be. I don't see anything there that's real significant. If you look on page 10, I look at right in the middle of the bottom of the page, it says total instruction. That's all your teachers, all your programs. This is all your expenses for what you use to educate kids. But this year it was $4,943,000. Last year, $4,950,000. So you actually went down in your total instruction expense. So that's pretty significant in all honesty, because not very many districts have gone down with their total package there. So expenses seem to be maintained and pretty well in control. I don't think anything there is out of the ordinary. Like I said, it's pretty much right in line with where I would expect it to be. Page 13, total for the education fund, just because that's the biggest fund. Again, $7,326,000 at the bottom of the page compared to $7,275,000. So you're actually down a little bit in expenses on your education fund. So overall, the expenses are really pretty well managed and don't seem to have anything there out of the ordinary. Now, just a couple other key numbers. Page 29. I probably, for those who've been around for a couple of years, I've talked about this a little bit. The pension debt, right there, it says employer proportionate share of net pension liability, $402,000. That's the amount that the state hasn't funded. I said there was $3 million they were supposed to put in. Well, they haven't put. They're short $402,000. That's the amount that they're short funding for Oakwood schools. And so I say that back to the fund balance discussion, because that $402,000, I believe, at some point in time will get kicked back to the local taxing bodies to make up. So the districts that have a good solid fund balance that can withstand that without raising taxes, as we're talking about here, or do something, will be the ones that can, will be able to survive and be able to pay that in, at least part of it or all of it. Every time I talk to any legislatures, they tell me there's no way they're ever going to be able to get out of that debt. TRS is in almost $1 billion in the hole. because they borrowed money from it in 2000, never paid it back. They're just way short. The only way they're ever going to do it is to either levy a tax, which didn't pass last year, or try to come up with the ability to throw it back at the taxpayers. And I think that's where it's going to probably happen. Sounds like at least part of that might get kicked back. So again, if you got a good solid fund balance, you can withstand that without having to maybe adjust your taxes or jump it up. Always a good thing. I think Larry alluded to doing the truth of taxation. It always makes sense to do that and take advantage of your levy and get whatever you can max. You don't have to take it, but as long as you've levied for it, at least it's there if you need it. So I think that discussion was right on par with what I'm looking at. So I think that's just something I've told that to all the school boards, just something to look at down the road. I think that's going to happen at some point in time. So every school district's going to have to figure out, how do I fund that? How do I pay that? So I bring that up because of that. But the other key number is IMRF, and I looked at it, I didn't bring the paper for it, but IMRF is way overfunded for you guys. I think I looked at the numbers this afternoon. It was like $150,000 that they're actually overfunded. And IMRF as a whole is overfunded, which is unreal because the state of Illinois has wanted to grab money from them, but the IMRF board has never allowed them to touch it. So they've managed it themselves. They've done a great job of managing it. They're way over. And have you got your rate yet for this year? What's happening is the rate, they're lowering, because they're overfunded across the board. They're lowering their IMRF rates to a lot of the school districts and a lot of the taxing bodies. So what we're seeing is they're actually kicking back and letting you save a little money by not having you have it. So your tax rate might be a little different here down the road because we're lowering the amount of IMRF that they're paying in. So it's going to be interesting to see, just because they've done such a good job of managing IMRF and taking care of it, it's overfunded. So what they're doing is what you would hope they would do, is that lower the amount that they're having all the taxing bodies pay in. And so hopefully your levy might actually end up being a little high because the rate won't be as high. Now, that's going to get offset with minimum wage going up and all the extra expenses maybe that you would incur here over the next couple of years as you increase that. But still, I think that's going to have an impact on that bottom line. So just interesting to note how it's all been managed and maintained over the years and how those things have happened. It's kind of funny how that has worked out over the years. The other kind of key number I want to look at on you is jump you back to page 47. And this is your operating expense per pupil. And we just talked a little bit about EBF. And as you can see down here, come down, this is the calculation that the state uses to figure your operating expense per pupil and then divides it by your average daily attendance. And the first problem you got is your average daily attendance went down, so we're now dividing more costs over less students, so it's automatically going to go up. But you can see you jumped to 11,936 per pupil this year. Down right below that, last year was 9,730. Now that's deceiving in the fact that you incurred, the state of Illinois in their infinite wisdom, they had to do the calculation, and we include all the extra COVID expenses that you have in there. They're all in there. But they didn't allow us to offset those extra expenses with the revenue you got. If you had included in those, that operating expense wouldn't be nearly as high. So what you're going to have happen is in March, April, somewhere along, the state's going to come out with a list of all the operating expenses per pupil for every school district, and everybody's is going to be way up. And I know people are going to scream, wait a minute, these school districts are spending way more much money. Why are they doing this? But in reality, they haven't. If you had offset it with the revenue, they'd probably actually be a little lower because you've had so much revenue. The only reason I can think it's going to do it, and I talked to a state rep the other day, Tom Bennett, and he said he believes it's because they're going to try to factor that into EBF and try to make your EBF lower because they're driving up your costs. They're going to say that your EBF should be lower because you've gotten so much money on that. They're trying to factor that into EBF somehow. Who knows how? I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's another thing that could potentially happen. But it distorts your numbers completely from what it was before. So that's kind of interesting to note. So we'll see how that affects things coming down the road as well. So that'll be interesting as well. And then right in line with what Larry just talked about on the last page on 49 is the last 3 years assessed valuations and your tax rates and what you actually extended in taxes. I thought perfect timing for that since you just had that discussion. You can kind of see what you had over the last 3 years in your levy, what your rates are, and what you actually got in taxes. So that's kind of falls right in line with what you talked about there. So interesting enough. But again, financially, you're moving in the right direction. Things are looking very good. We'll see what happens in the future. Obviously, there'll be some some state funding or something, that'll probably change, but overall, right now, you're in really good shape. Finding wise, you should have a letter, but there's nothing real significant there. We had a couple of things on some old activity checks that weren't cleared or something, but nothing major. There were very few findings this year, so clean little audit. So questions? I kind of flew through that in a hurry.
Questions?
Is it normal for the debt services to be that high?
That's a little high, and I would agree with you.
I got to a point where the assessor always took out exactly what it was we owed, almost to the penny. They have $170,000 in that account.
Yeah, but what happens is if you're earning interest or doing anything like that, they're not factoring that into it. So over the years, that'll accumulate, and the county's not taking that into it.
But not that amount, would it be?
Well, probably not. It's probably over the years, you've maybe refinanced your debt at some point, done some things with your debt that they didn't know about, and they continue to assess whatever it is. And so, yeah, you could actually if you would pass that on to the county clerk, he could actually probably lower the levy for whatever the bond payment is and withstand some of that. Or the other option is you can move that money out of the bond and interest fund, transfer it to another fund if you wanted to. If we knew where it was related to, what bond issue was related to, you could move it out and transfer it.
Probably could use it in operations and maintenance.
Probably, but I don't know if it was building funds originally or not, but
Yeah.
you'd have to look.
I don't know that either.
That is research, but you can figure it out.
Right.
Comments, questions, complaints to Larry?
That's right.
Any other questions, comments?
Very good.
All right, Russ, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Russ.
Okay.
We'll go ahead then.
Yeah, just a few updates as far as construction update. I wanted to just kind of let the board know. I think I talked a little bit last night at the finance committee. A couple things that we're working on right now in regards to construction. One is the new wing for the junior high. We need to get a couple of bathrooms in there, adult bathrooms. So we're working on that, and that would go in the mechanical room. That's probably $65,000 cost, it looks like, to do that, but that will meet code, and we'll take care of our faculty and staff there. And also will be bathrooms that can be usable for handicapped students if they need to, and other types of situations we may incur. And then we also are looking at, because we're losing some of our playground situation here, and I know it's winter and we're tearing that up to redo it, and we're using Preschool for All grant money there. The PTO is helping us there. In the meantime, we've got to try to find a way to have those kiddos be able to get outside and do some of their motor functioning. And to do that out on that far east playground, out by the basketball goal there, just south of the soccer field, we feel like we need to get a temporary fence up there, to protect those kids and make it a little bit safer. And so this afternoon, we worked that out with Amoresco. They'll probably start working on that, I think, about Friday, maybe, right, John? And it's going to cost us about $3,300 to get that fence in there to protect those kids, but it's essential, and I think it's even required, if I remember right, isn't it, Nicole?
Yes, for Preschool for All.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to kind of give you that update there, and that's really pretty much it. Other than we've got a get together here pretty soon. I got a lot of shovels and a lot of hard hats for you. School maintenance grant application. Haven't heard anything back on that. Cash flow sheet. Money is moving in and out well. Revenues are still coming in. Expenditures are staying within budget, so we're good there. But you have a copy of that in front of you, so nothing new to add there. And the last item, just want to say I'm happy to say that we received as you know, notification from the Oakwood Education Association as a settlement and they withdrew their grievance against the district in regards to summer school custodial hours. So I think it's always good when you can come together and just try to keep working together and communicating and moving forward together. So just want to mention that tonight as another form of good news.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Mayor? Okay. We'll move on to Mrs. Kimbrough, curriculum.
Today, worked on the mandated units of study. We got a new form and new it was a little bit different than what we had done in the past, and so I have all those done. Amending the grants, we got our carryover money in Title I, II, and IV. So I changed everything, changed the budget, balanced everything, and by the time I went to submit, it wouldn't let me submit because we had gotten more money in each one. So I've got to redo all of those again, but the nice part is that just checking with other curriculum coordinators, they had a great idea about, actually BER, which is where we do some of our professional development, has allowed recorded lessons. So Nicole has been able, I purchased for Nicole, and then she gets it out to them, and then they can watch it after school or before school, and I can pay them a stipend for doing that above their normal workday. So my information came from other schools who are doing it. Mohammed has been doing it, and it's very strict and it's very scheduled. So if there's a conference, they may say between 3:30 and 5:30, you have to go. You know what I mean, during that time. So I'm going to try to let them determine when, because if you have small kids at home, you don't want to stay 2 hours or 3 hours. So if they want to do an hour a night or whatever else. So we're going to see how this works. And I already amended the grant to do that. So hopefully other professional development people follow through, or companies, and then we're able to have that and kind of hold on to it. And then I do want to point out, Jenna Everingham watched one with struggling readers, and she took notes on it, and then she gave me the download, and I was able to make handouts for everybody and put her notes into the handouts. And she's already, I talked to Jen about this, and I want to do this, and so I think it's going to allow us to share more and have more people kind of get on board with that. So then it was for grades 3 to 6, and so Brenda Minji, I sent her access to it, and then I also did a booklet for her as well. So otherwise, Jenna would have gone to the conference, if she attended in person, and it kind of would have been the end of it. And now we're able to use that a little bit more and more people get involved. So Nicole kind of spearheaded that and ordered that and got everything lined up. So I think that's going to be great moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Odom, high school?
Yes, I have the report that I gave to you. Some of the highlights I want to hit is our comment of the month was Warren Durbin. Yelka Laving was our character of optimism. So we always need optimism in our district. So happy to have her. Zoe Ensign was our athlete of the month, and then Mr. Kyle Shelton was our staff member of the month. We are happy to have him on board, and he's been doing a lot of great work. So he is our staff member of the month. The honor roll, our kids are excited to be back in school. They are doing well with their homework. We had a high number of students on the honor roll. We had 5 students that were retained last year, meaning that they didn't really get any grades, didn't do what they needed to do, that are now on the honor roll. So it tells you how excited they are to go from being remote or hybrid to being in school. And with that, we're excited about that, but there's also, they've been out of school for about a year and a half. And so the freshmen and sophomores are still trying to figure out how to socialize within the school building. So we've had a little uptick in our discipline issues, and we're working with that, and hopefully the students will respond well to that. I just want to highlight the upcoming events we have. We've got a blood drive on December 6th. Ms. Cooper and the student council is doing that. So if you are able to give blood and you want to sign up, just contact Ms. Cooper. Also, our senior citizens dinner is coming up on December 8th, 11 o'clock. We're going to offer a drive-through or pickup for some of the seniors who may not want to be sitting inside. We ran it through the public health so that we can have the people that want to sit inside and eat be able to do that. Last year when I was out there with Mr. Lee handing up, because it was all drive-through last year, we heard a lot from the senior citizens how they wish they could get together and just eat together. I think there was a lot of loneliness there. So we want to facilitate that for our community if we can. Obviously, we're going to have to make sure that we're social distancing. We're doing what we're supposed to do according to public health. We're going to try to have the band play like they normally do in the choir. Hopefully it's a good day because they're gonna have to do that outside, maybe in the handicap parking area, so that we're following the IDPH guidance as far as that goes as well. So we're hoping for a good day. Something that I left off was December 10th is going to be our band and choir Christmas or holiday concert at the high school. We're gonna have the band and the choir farther away from the seating. They're gonna be more closer to the stage, so we've got that distance, so that we stay within the IDPH parameters when we're playing instruments and singing. But I think that's another thing that the community really needs. And hopefully we'll have some people show up. And then semester exams are the 16th and 17th, so we're preparing for that. And I did put some charts about our remote learning at the high school, so if you have any questions, I can answer those. That's all I've got.
Okay,
Unless you
thank
have any
you.
questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Shelton?
Okay, well, I'll start off first with talking about our last fall sport that took place was cross country. I'm very pleased to announce that our girls cross country team qualified for sectionals as a team. Coaches tell me it's the first time since 2002 that that's happened. So we had a fantastic year with cross country, and good news about that is all those girls will be returning next year. We're not losing any seniors on that group, so super excited for that. We even had one of those girls qualify for state, and she finished 16th overall in the state of Illinois, Class 1A, and she's a sophomore, so she will also be back. So really strong fall for the cross country team. So and they wrapped up their season, so they have completed. And moving on into winter sports, all the winter sports are now underway, and we just completed winter sports pictures last Friday, so that's done. We're now working on the programs for all the games. Girls basketball started back on November the 1st. They actually have their first game at Arcola this past Monday night and played exceptionally well. I think the coaches were pleased with the first game. They will host their first game tomorrow night here against St. Thomas More at Oakwood High School. So if you're free and want to come out, you can watch the girls. They play at 6 o'clock, just one game. And then Comet Classic will start this weekend for the girls basketball. So it's on top of us. We got two new teams that are joining that. Tri-County is back in the tournament. I think they were in the previous years. And then KZ, Westville, is jumping in the tournament as well. So glad to have those two teams. And then for boys basketball, they started on November the 8th. They had 31 boys out for the team, which is a very good number. And their first game will be on Monday the 22nd at the Tri-County tournament, which they're in for the first time in a couple of years. So they're returning back to that tournament here for Thanksgiving. And then for wrestling, they also started November the 8th. They have 10 Oakwood kids out on the team, and they have really beefed up their schedule this year. They've really taken on some heavy hitters in the state of Illinois, and they're going to be traveling to Centennial, to Canton, Knoxville, and even hosting Mattoon this year. So excited to see what the wrestling program does this year. So they're off and underway. And then a couple different projects we're working on is first off, as you know, we're starting construction with the junior high over the winter and possibly moving into next school year, that possibility of the junior high and high school team using the same field possibly at the park. We're going to try to entertain that. I'll try to see what the feasibility is of that with the park. So we have a meeting set for January 26th to talk about that with the park and with the mayor and some school officials and others on the 26th to see if that's a possibility moving forward. So and then the other project that I have that I've been working on is officials pay. I had several officials during the fall kind of tell me that our pay might be a little under what the area is. I did some research on that with the BBC and our own conference. I think the idea is to run with the pack, not be more than what they're paying, but be up there with everybody else, kind of on average of what we're doing. And so I did submit that to you guys in your report. You can see where we are at and where we're kind of lower in that scale. So I'm hoping you guys get a chance to look at that, and maybe we can, or you guys can offer some suggestions of where we can go. I have offered my input to Mr. Maynard and you guys, and then love to have that possibly raised in the future if we can in order to run with the pack, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's all I have. If you have any questions for me.
I just wanted to jump in, come alongside you on this, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Shelton's done a great job of communicating. He's done a great job of doing some research with the other schools. And so the information that he's provided to us is really helpful in guiding us to make sure that we're consistent, with the other school districts. So the idea here is that you get a chance to look at it as new information, get a chance to discuss it if you have any questions in December. And then in January, we'd like to be able to make a recommendation that we would move forward, with those recommendations. So just so you have an idea how we'd like to move forward with this. Thank you, Mr. Shelton.
One question, will it affect you filling officials at this point, waiting until January?
Not necessarily. I've already got most of our officials set for the winter sports season. I am trying to get some officials for baseball and softball for the spring. So, and several officials have asked me what our pay is. So that's something that is being taken into consideration now by some officials. So
Very good.
Yeah.
Officials are dwindling
Yeah,
very
Well-
quickly.
the reason for the question was to not delay on this, that you could jeopardize your opportunity to get an official.
And we have pretty much decided together if we get into that situation, occasionally we're gonna make sure we secure officials with the shortage that we have.
Good.
So
Good.
we are doing that as a practice on a case situation, but we didn't want to do everything without the board's input.
The one thing, there's some talk about playing football on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. And spread the officials out so far.
Yeah. I can speak on that. I currently have the officials scheduled for football out to 2026. Some schools are even working out to 27 and 28 right now. So I feel, and next year right now, our schedule, we have several Saturday games because of what you just mentioned, because officials are drastically dropping in the state of Illinois, and they're very hard to find. So you kind of have to be on top of it in order to get games. So right now it's moving to Saturdays, but there is talk about other dates during the week.
There's been some chatter statewide about taking your juniors and seniors and trying to put them through and making it even part of your PE program to promote the idea that they look into the idea of officiating in the future. It may be something you may want to consider along with everybody else in the county.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great suggestion, actually. So I know that the state is hurting, and I think that by offering more money, especially with a lot of different factors, rising gas prices and so on and so forth, and having to get people from far away to travel here, that makes a big difference by raising what we pay, and then also that could help get more officials and get more people interested in doing it.
and I'm not sure if money's total. I think some of the abuse they take is part of the.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move along, Mrs. Bree.
Good evening. We have finished second quarter's midterm, and that's exciting. And not only are kids excited about being back to school, but we're seeing some of the talents our students have. In our 8th grade English language arts, they're doing Telltale Heart. They did a lot of slides, but they did some posters that are just unbelievable, some of the creativity our students have. And in 7th grade math, they do a taco truck project where they have to create a food truck and a menu. And I just really appreciate the excitement that the kids have, not only to learn the academics, but to bring some of their own talents and twists to things. So that's exciting. Volleyball will start in December. Our girls basketball 8th grade night is tonight, and they start regionals in St. Joe on Saturday. Boys basketball had their first game at the junior high on Monday. So we are in full swing. It's pretty exciting. With cheerleading, and then we've also got Scholastic Bowl and student council. And talking about that, student council is involved in the Festival of Trees. Their gingerbread house finished second, and their tree finished middle school first and best of show. And Mrs. Brem took a group of kids there today, student council members, and that was a great opportunity for our school. Talking about where our kids were at first quarter, we had 29 students between summer school and being retained.
between 7th and 8th grade. So after the first quarter, 81% of those kids are on track. And so it was awesome to call those parents and say, hey, think about where we were last year, look where we are today. And those parents are very excited too. And the kids, that just encourages them more. And then we have things set up for the other 20% to get them back on track because it's still pretty early. So those things are going to keep us moving forward. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from Mrs. Burke?
I was happy to see the turnout in the basketball. That was
Yes, that's great.
17 kids playing 7th grade. I understand there's 16 for 7th for 6th grade and 9 for the 8th grade. I'm glad that Parker, I think he rubs off on those kids.
Yes.
And we all laugh.
Yeah,
So I'm glad to see that.
it was nice to have them back, the kids back to play.
Okay, Mrs. Pence.
So first, I just want to recognize Amy Makowicz. She received our first positive staff office referral, which is something that we also do for the students. But what's nice is that these positive office referrals are submitted by their peers. So Amy was the first one recognized, and then just the other day, Mr. Glosser received one. So it's fun to announce them over the intercom and then take their picture and post it on social media. And then they get a little prize with that. So that has been a lot of fun to do. And then the biggest thing that I just wanted to talk about tonight is Mrs. Ferris was really struggling with the idea of doing a Christmas program this year with the size of our Christmas program.
Oh, yeah.
With restrictions really haven't changed all that much since this time last year when we wouldn't even consider it with singing with the mask. I mean, we all know that Mrs. Ferris puts on a magnificent all-out show. So I think she was feeling the pressure with as many students as we've had out, just not even being able to have time to prepare students for any kind of program. So we are supporting her in the idea of putting on a big to-do in the spring instead of having a Christmas program. So we're hoping, by then that maybe restrictions may be lifted a little bit by then, and we can actually maybe sing without masks and not be muffled. But we wanted to make sure that she was given the opportunity to really put on her best and that the kids were given the opportunity to really put on their best. And that's the best way that we feel that we can go about doing that. So that's where we're at right now. And right now newest data came out, Vermilion County is in the top 10 for transmission rates in the state. So that's a huge concern, and not putting hundreds of people smashed together in the gym right before a holiday and potentially exposing them to not be able to enjoy their holidays. So biggest thing is we just want to have an awesome big to-do that won't happen for Christmas. So spring it'll be a different twist on things, and I think we'll see some really cool stuff come out of it.
Let's hope we get there.
Yeah. So that's it for me. I included some conference percentages and remote learning things, but
Mrs. Acton?
All right. So in my report, I went through our students of the month for the month of October. I also shared with you our overall attendance statistics. The ROE, the truancy officer, she meets with me monthly. However, she enjoys Oakwood and she comes and visits more often, and she's done a phenomenal job in checking in with students. We have student conferences almost on a weekly basis. She visits homes. I'm very saddened that Officer Smitley is out right now because she's done a phenomenal job. So I'm praying that she gets well for a lot of reasons, but also to come back because she has done a great job in supporting our students that are struggling to be there every day. I shared with you our discipline. It is much more of a normal year, so we are seeing much more normal behaviors in that sense. I really appreciated the support from both Ms. Lopez and Mr. Maynard on doing reinstatement conferences for when we do have issues arise, where we do have the parents come in and meet with us and come up with ways that these problems are not going to continue. So those have been beneficial. We are still continuing with our student office referrals, and just so you know, we announce those over the intercom, and it's honestly one of the highlights of our days to be able to share, and it is amazing to hear. In our office, you can hear the claps in the 6th grade hallway, you can hear them all over, and it's a great way to recognize our students. I shared an update on our 6th grade boys basketball season, for lack of a better word. We were able to schedule 3 intramural scrimmages, 3 scrimmages against opposing teams, and 1 dedicated night to 6th grade where they're going to play Villa Grove, and they had enough to field 2 teams as well as we did. So we're going to have a 6th grade game and another 6th grade game with an A team and a B team. So looking forward to that. You'll see later on the recommendation for Josh Hunsberger. He's doing a really nice job in working with Parker Lee, and they touch base with me weekly on making sure that our students are keeping their grades up, and also that their discipline and office referrals aren't there too. I want to go ahead and give a shout out. I did not include it in my report. It happened after I submitted. Jeremy Evans is the fire department chief, I guess would be the correct word. We had an incident with a student, and it was a medical emergency where he had a ring stuck on his finger, and it was significantly impacting his circulation to the point where we were at the point of calling an ambulance. And Jeremy Evans, who was off duty, came in, brought in the tools, made sure he had everything, drove as fast as he could, and he really helped us with that student. And I am so thankful for a community like this that is willing to do that even when you're off duty. So just want to give him some recognition publicly on that. And I think that's everything from me.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead. Mr. Richardson?
I only have one thing to add. About a year and a half ago at the high school, we signed up for the E-rated consortium for the state of Illinois, which provided us a 1 gigabit fiber line out there. Mr. Maynard is on to an ROE meeting and asked me about it. I was like, well, yeah, we already have it at the high school. I was like, can I get it other places too? And he's like, well, yeah, go ahead and see it. He gave me a consultant's name. I emailed him, and starting next year, it should be around when construction is completed, we'll have a 1 gigabit line out to the grade school also. So that will more than triple the current speed that's out there at the grade school, and it will also be no cost to us for the next 5 years. Like we have not paying at the grade or at the high school for the next 5 years either. So that'll be fantastic. I'm
Nice.
looking forward to that. And if anybody has any other questions or anything?
You got our attention with no cost.
Thank you, thank you. Mrs. Lund?
I don't have anything to add. I just really want to reiterate saying thank you to our parents who have stepped up and transporting their children to and from school. It has made a huge difference in what we were seeing on the buses, and I am so very thankful for it. And our whole team really appreciates it.
Yeah. I see them line up every day.
Yeah.
And they leave my drive open, which is really nice. They're very courteous, yes, yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Mr. Siddons?
I got several things, I guess. We had some lights out in our weight room out at the high school when I went up to fix them. The wiring was bad on about 50% of the lights, so I talked to Mr. Maynard. We went in and put all LED lighting in there, so it's all new lighting, a lot brighter too, so I think that's helped. Getting ready to do the wrestling room the same way. They've had some light issues with balances and bulbs, so we're gonna get ready to start putting some LED lighting in there for that too. So I think the coaches will be a lot happier with being bright. Also, we got the ROE report. Haven't had a chance to really sit down with Mr. Maynard yet with everything going on. We'll get together and look at that and get that started and working on that. Some of them we already have, so we're good there. Got all the kitchen cabinets in for the new kitchens in the home ec room now. Michelle and I have been working really hard on that. The only thing we don't have is the sinks where they're on back order, so we're kind of holding off till we make sure we get those in. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have those and get started. Maybe over Christmas, get a biggest part of those put in. So looking forward to getting that started. To the construction part of it, we had a pre-construction meeting yesterday. Met with the site director, our site manager, the general manager. Talked about a lot of different things. One of the things is we've been kind of behind a little bit because of city permits. We've had some little things with that. Nothing major, just making sure we're all on the same page. Want to keep the city happy. Right now, the contractor's going to do the dig in and some of that is, we're going to have a meeting Friday at 1 o'clock with that. So they know where stuff's at, trying to go over everything with that. The 19th, which is Friday, they're going to be in to start on the playground fencing. The 22nd, the asbestos, we got to have some testing done with that. So that's going on. Chris and I have been working with the Wi-Fi to get it temporarily put for the water tower. So that's come along. I think that's a go. So we're going to be moving that right along. So pretty much everything, as of right now, the first dig will probably be the 29th is when they're projecting to start putting in. The first phase of it will be the storm sewer, and they want to put a door in where the new office will be out of one of our classrooms. So everything's moving along. Been a lot going. A lot of it's going to be determined by the weather. So we just hope we have a good winter so we can keep moving forward. They have started doing prefab on the walls and got some of the steel coming, for the roofing. So a lot of that's already pre-done. It's just a matter of getting the foundation in and finalizing all that. So as of now, we just keep going. So it's going to be a busy winter.
You just jinxed yourself talking about the weather. You should.
Well, got to put it in there. Any questions, you can let me know. I try to fill Mr. Maynard in daily if there's something really important. So he pretty much, we communicate, try and keep communication open every day. So we'll keep moving.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I do want to add, thanks to Shar we got a lot of traffic issues coming up. So Shar has really worked hard as far as keeping our kids safe, walking, riding, and everything. So I want to thank her for that. She's really done great with that. So thank you for everything she does.
I'll add something to Shar too. We got new bus cameras for all of them, and I'm sure that was probably in a report, but we had a bid, and then I wrote the grant and broke down the bid, and then she was able to play a little hardball and call other people, and anyway, came in, I think about $9,000 under and better cameras. So she did a great job and gave me $9,000 more to spend, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And our new cameras do allow us to see in the seats on all the buses as well. So it's going to be really helpful.
Nice. Any other questions or comments on the reports? If not, we'll move along to the OEA report.
I don't really have anything new. I just wanted to take a second to give my appreciation to everybody for doing what we had to do with going down and the short notice and still keeping everything going. I think that's a huge amount of stress that whether we wanted to be in that situation or not, we were able to still continue to do it. And I also appreciate the things that these two behind me are doing. There's not an envious person with the job that they have. And I really hope that we can take something off their plate because they're busting their tail. And it is appreciated.
by us in there. I know that's maybe not from outsiders, but it is appreciated. So I just want to give them a nod. That's all I have.
Yes, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Did we have any FOIA requests?
We did not.
Old business, any discussion on?
I just wanted to highlight Jesse jumped in here for us and got us started well. We've got two ladies here tonight, and I just want to reiterate what he just said. He said it very well. But Megan Zendars and Sarah Brown, you two are phenomenal nurses for our school district. And all the work that you do during the day, in the evenings, on weekends, everything you do to make sure that our kids and our staff are safe and you're following the guidelines like you are, and it's hard. And I just want to publicly thank you both. I couldn't ask for better nurses serving our school district than you two ladies right there. You're quality people, you're quality educators, you're quality nurses, and we're blessed to have you. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank
You
you.
do.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
At this time, we will go into closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed? Second, please. Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Lynn to enter closed session at 6:36 PM. Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford? Yes. Motion carried. Roll call vote.
Okay. And we're going into closed session to consider individual student-related matters.
Chris, you want to help me stop this?
Mute yourself.
I'm sorry.
Mute yourself.
Got it.
session, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Lynn to return to open session at 7:18 PM. Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes,
Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 3.
thank you. We'll move on to item 10. These are consideration and action items. The first A is a recommendation to approve the tentative tax levy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Bradford to approve the tentative tax levy as presented. Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 4.
Item B, would you like to address that, Mr. Navy?
Sure. Yeah, this is just a routine mention. Every year we have to renew and adopt the American Family Section 125. It's a flexible benefit plan that we have as part of our benefits to our employees, and we have to renew that each year. So I would ask that you would adopt that this evening.
May I have a motion, please? Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Lynn to approve the flexibility benefit plan as presented. Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 5.
Okay, we'll move on to C, a recommendation to approve the hiring of Blake Frazier for the high school assistant baseball coach. This would be his first year as a paid high school coach on staff and be on step 1 of the collective bargaining agreement pay schedule. Do you have a comment?
Sure, yeah. Mr. Frazier is an Oakwood guy. He has recently was hired as a junior high baseball coach as well, and has a son at junior high level as well. And he is, I came away from our interview with him very impressed with his energy and his compassion and knowledge for the game. So super excited to have him on board and see what he can bring to our baseball program.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Bradford to approve the employment of Blake Frazier as presented. Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 6.
And D, a recommendation to approve the following volunteer high school assistant wrestling coaches. Kylie, is that Bolt?
Say Bob.
Bob, okay, Bob. Matt, how do we pronounce Matt's last name? Cervantes, okay. Ashton Hayton and Wesley Kibler. Bryce Ivy and Darren Hayton have already been board approved. So may I have a motion, please?
Second.
Do you have any comments to make about the?
No, it's just basically a formality to make sure that we have them board approved. And we know that we had a couple already board approved, but we want to circle back to make sure that they all were
Okay.
on there and that we move forward.
Who is the head coach?
Coach Glosser, so my Glosser. Okay, thanks.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Lynn to approve the wrestling volunteers as presented. Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 7.
Okay, item E, recommendation to approve the hiring of Josh Hosberger for the position of 6th grade boys basketball coach. He is on step 1 of the collective bargaining agreement pay schedule. Any comments there?
He's been wonderful of volunteering his time up until now and done a great job in recruiting the boys and getting them to play.
Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Bradford to approve the employment of Josh Hunsberger as presented. Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 8.
F, recommendation to approve the hiring of Parker Lee for the position of 8th grade boys basketball coach. He is on step 2 of the collective bargaining agreement pay schedule.
We hired him for 7th grade, and with the new 8th grade opening, he stepped up and said he could do both. His, like you said, he's contagious. He's got a little vanilla, he fits everywhere, but he's chocolate and strawberry too, because the boys should see that on his hand. And then the next thing are gonna be his supports. So I highly recommend Parker Lee.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Janeski to approve the employment of Parker Lee as presented. Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 9.
And G, a recommendation to approve Tim Lee and John Dudley for the position of junior high boys basketball volunteer coaches.
I know you guys don't know Mr. Lee and Mr. Dudley, but Mr. Lee Parker says these would be great guys to help him out. So I think they're gonna be a great team together.
Him gonna be able to work for his son?
He offered. It sounded like he was the one that put the olive branch out.
May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Janeski to approve the junior high basketball volunteers as presented. Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yeah.
Motion carried by roll call vote 10.
Okay, moving on to H, a recommendation to approve the hiring of Rhonda Michael for the position of junior high part-time PM custodian up to 20 hours per week. She will be on step 1 of the collective bargaining agreement pay schedule.
I'd like Rhonda to step into John's position. Our past PM custodian was offered a full-time position in her day job, so we want to promote her and be excited for her. Rhonda worked with Jerry this summer, and she did a great job, and so I look forward to having her in the building. I highly recommend her. She's been a sub for our district.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Janeski to approve the employment of Rhonda Michael as presented. Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford? Yes. Janeski?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 11.
Okay, on to item I. Recommendation to approve the transferring of Bailey Unicus to the position of teacher's aide from her current position of personal aide. This is contingent on the completion of certification requirements.
Bailey's been a personal aide for us. She's an excellent staff member. With the resignation, we had the teacher's aide opening and Bailey's student actually moved, so it just works out perfectly.
Okay.
And she has already completed all the requirements needed.
Super. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Bradford to approve the transfer of Bailey Unicus as presented. Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yep.
Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 12.
Okay, moving on to item J, transportation. Recommendation to approve the hiring of James Fry for the position of bus driver. His rate of pay will be $16.24 per hour. Oh, there you are. You moved on me.
I recommend Jim. He comes from strong Oakwood ties in the community. He has experience. And since he's been on learning our routes and everything, getting a school bus license again, he's going to be such a great part of the team, such a team player, and works really well with everybody.
May I have a motion to hire James Fry? Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Janeski to approve the employment of James Fry as presented. Bradford?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yep.
Lynn?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call 13.
Any other new business at this time? Anything for discussion? Okay, if not, we will move to item 12, which is adjournment. May I have a motion to
So moved.
adjourn? Do I have a second? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Bradford to adjourn at 7:27 PM. Janeski?
Yep.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 14.
Thank you.
Thank you.